Over to Edgar's parents.
Sorry, buddy.
Mr. Jose, and
Frankfurt, Lee.
good day, son.
So they get our numbers up. We got to broaden our viewer.
Promised Jerry our A game.
Good, great minds trying to find a new puppet.
Is street talk? I mean, what next?
Puppet Vincent. We have to bridge.
Are a master.
That's not real, boy, don't you?
I got it.
Sure, yeah. Don't forget to work.
Want to swap?
Go around. We're gonna give him.
Dad, I've got an idea. He gets mad. And it's
14 years serving in the U.S. military.
They're lying now. My boss is dead.
Hey, go back and call police! Fuck you!
Hey.
well.
Father the boy.
Oh, don't listen to.
The press conference concerning Edgar Anderson's
Over to Edgar's
Ivan Morris
parents.
Howe disappearance is
Sorry,
where
buddy.
the episode begins. Benedict Cumberbatch's character, Vincent Anderson, apologizes to his son and begs him to return home so he can prove to the media that he is still alive. Edgar is present in the Good Day Sunshine set. Following filming, he sits in the lobby as Jackson, Simon Manander, Frank, Raymond Carr, Vincent, Lenny,
So they
Dan
get our numbers up.
Fogler,
We gotta
and the
broaden
other
our
cast
viewer.
members talk
Promised
about the
Jerry our
show's
A
future.
game.
Good, great minds
Vincent
trying to find
challenges
a
the
new puppet.
modification.
Is street
Lenny
talk?
informs
I mean,
him
what
that the
next?
past year has seen a decline
We
in
have to
viewing.
bridge.
Edgar
Are a
examines the
master.
fabric used for the outfits as the conference goes on.
I got it.
Sure.
Eric
yeah.
receives
Don't
a
forget to
swatch of fuzzy, blue cloth from
Wanna
Ellis,
swap?
Chloe
Around.
Claudel.
We're gonna give
Before heading off, Lenny throws something to Ellis. Edgar presents his concept for the next puppet, Eric, a little while later,
Dad,
but Vincent
I've
is
got an idea. He gets
preoccupied.
mad.
David
And
Brooks,
14
a
years
Vietnam
serving in the
veteran,
US military.
requests funds. Vincent offers him some money and
They're
expresses
lying now, my boss
gratitude
is
for his
dead.
assistance. Edgar shuts his notepad. A joke about an overweight passenger is told by Vincent. After Vincent buys Edgar a Dynamite comic book, Yusuf, Bama Kane leaves the booze store without paying. After saying hello to Edgar, Yusuf walks along the sidewalk. Vincent is leading Edgar in a race to see who can get home first, and Edgar gives up. Clark Peters' character George Lovett begs Edgar to save him the riddle in his comic book. Cassandra Edgar is greeted by Cassie Anderson, Gabby Hoffman with an embrace.
In a world knowing things
Vincent
start
begs her
changing,
not to put him to
Artist,
sleep.
Edgar.
She claims that the shelter on
Might be just what
34th
the show
Street would
needs.
soon be
This
replaced
song's
by his
back.
father,
I'm
Robert
sorry.
Anderson's
Maybe.
condominiums.
Wanna get that
He
thing on
tells her
TV.
about Lenny's intention to make a brand new puppet.
Sorry, Edgar.
Edgar swears FKU in his room as he works on his drawing of Eric. After dinner, Vincent invites Edgar to present his suggestion after drinking excessively. Vincent badgers Edgar for explaining Eric's information until Cassie steps in. Edgar later hears his parents fighting and the glass breaking. When Cassie arrives to see how he's doing, he's awake.
Get along, catch
She
us
looks
down
at his
there.
paintings of
Yeah.
Eric after searching beneath his
have some
bed for
French toast,
monsters.
don't you?
She says he possesses Vincent's ability and says he enjoys it. Edgar is silent throughout breakfast. In an attempt to lift his spirits, Vincent offers him some French toast, but he turns it down. As Vincent tries to patch things up with Cassie, he finishes preparing his lunch. Cassie disputes Vincent's belief that Edgar is old enough to walk alone to school. As Edgar strolls along the pavement, a guy observes him. Edgar turns the corner, and George looks. Vincent is informed by a lady that Cassie called when he gets to the studio. Vincent is alerted by Jerry, Donald Sage Mackay that Richard Costello, Jeff Hefner is in the children's area. After the presentation for a few minutes, Vincent deviates from the plan to discuss the rising crime rate in New York. Costello moves out of his chair. Even without Vincent, the show continues. Vincent is told to phone Cassie by a lady. He reads his texts before posing for a group shot.
Lenny, come
According
on.
to Costello, City Hall recognizes their contributions to the city. Vincent gripes about the garbage collection
Edgar did not
service.
get to school
Though
today.
Jerry attempts to play it off as a joke, Vincent tells him that he's not playing games. He is reminded by Lenny of who covers their salary. When Vincent gets home, it's late and he finds Edgar gone. Cassie, in a panic, claims he never made it to school. Ledroit, McKinley Belcher 3 scans the flat, noticing a broken glass dustpan and a defaced picture of Vincent's father. Edgar, according to Cassie, has never walked to school by himself before. A car from News parks in front of the structure. Calling to inquire about Edgar is Cassie's mother. Ledroit queries George about anything unusual he observed this morning. According to George, the trash truck ran. Ledroit inquires about his grandkids after noticing a tricycle inside the flat that needs repair. George says he is mending it for a girl whose family occupies the apartment complex. George remarks that Edward was a good child, and Ledroit notes this. Ledroit gets his crew ready to canvass the neighborhood at the police station. Ledroit is greeted outdoors by a drag queen, George Lester. The proprietor of the Lux, Wade Alain Marcus's character Alexander Gator, offers him a beverage. Ledroit, wearing a wire, sits down and demands a Sprite. Gator interacts with the people. Ledroit is in the bathroom when TJ, Stephen Race gets attacked by Cal Kennedy, Bobby Schofield, who then asks him if he wants to become like Noakes, Ryan Hunter. Kennedy is being arrested by Ledroit until Noakes displays his badge. Kennedy claims that they belong to Vice. When Ledroit gets back to the police station, he takes off his wire, labels Lux April 30th, 1985, and adds the tape to his collection. He gives William, Mark Gillis, a kiss when he gets home. William pulls himself up against him. Vincent won't remain at home. He ought to have walked Edgar to school, according to Cassie. Without answering, he leaves. He strolls over to St. Edith's Elementary School, where kids are playing soccer on the playground after taking a gulp of wine. He is chastised by Commissioner Nelson, William hoped for almost arresting Noakes and Kennedy, and he is told not to go near the Lux. Gator is back in charge of the Lux, having been released from prison a few months ago. Ledroit tells him about the way Gator used children to smuggle cocaine into the Sierra.
From what?
Some wonder if Ledroit left Vice because he was unable to succeed there. Vincent is inebriated as George helps him up to his flat. He's told by Cassie that the cops have made an arrest. Ledroit shows them Edgar's Bleeding Good Day Sunshine t-shirt a little while later. Someone from Hudson Sanitation, he claims, found it. Many children, according to Vincent, wear the same garment. He is reassured by Cassie that it is Edgar's. Ledroit exhorts them to be optimistic. Cassie informs Vincent a little while later that she must leave him. He attempts to imitate Edgar's Eric at home. When Cassie phones to let him know she's at Rhonda's, he finishes his bottle of vodka. Sebastian, Jose Pimentel, meets with her. They give one another a passionate kiss. At his flat, George works on a crossword problem. Kennedy, who is inebriated, whines about his wife Kim all the time, bringing up their unborn child. Jard Johnston, the bartender, pours him another drink. Kennedy claims that since he speaks too much, Noakes is annoyed with him. When his watch slips out of his pocket, he doesn't pick it up. Ledroit takes notes during the recording at the Lux on April 30th. According to TJ, a 10-year-old Bourbon arrived tonight. A small youngster is asked by Gator if he is hungry. Yes, the boy responds. In another scene, Kenny is knocked out cold by a car and left senseless in the street. In Edgar's bed, Vincent awakens and slides onto the ground. In order to find Edgar, a life-sized replica of Eric kicks him, calls him a pathetic FK, and tells him to get dressed. Vincent leans forward to have a closer look at Eric. Somewhere on the ground is where Edgar's coat is laying. The show comes to an end.
Scene around 8 a.m. on Route 2.
Commissioner.
Yes,
Commissioner.
we're not chalking this up to
And surely City Hall has more to clean up.
anything up. We should let these say a few words.
No, come away.
Bastion from my class.
Hi, man. It's okay, I'll just...
Puppet on the show.
They found his...
At the conclusion of the press conference in episode 2 of Eric, Vincent gets a sight of Eric. Later on, he becomes agitated at witnessing Cassie's old pupil, Sebastian, consoling her. Then, when Cassie asks Vincent to assist her in her hunt for Edgar, he declines, citing his need to get to work. He believes that getting Edgar's puppet on the show is essential. Michael questions Edgar's teacher about him in the interim. The missing boy is seen fleeing from home with an unidentified male in one of his paintings. A press conference for Edgar Anderson, who is missing, is where the episode opens. Ivan Morris Howe. After answering inquiries from Greg, Robert Garlas and Mary, Sabrina Javor regarding rising crime and the disappearance of Marlon Rochelle, Ben Soreri, Commissioner Nelson, William Hope hands the conversation over to Vincent, Benedict Cumberbatch and Cassie Anderson, Gabby Hoffman. Vincent appears to startle everyone by apologizing to Edgar and requesting him to go home after a brief moment of doubt and Cassie's glance. A small youngster beating on the glass door in the rear of the room quickly grabs the attention of the attendees. As Nelson ends the conference, he tells Matteo Kripp, David Denman, that if he can turn up a body or suspect, he might be able to maintain his job. Detective Michael Ledroit, McKinley Belcher III, notices Vincent staring shell-shocked in his chair for too long when he glimpses Eric, Benedict Cumberbatch. Amid appreciating a devotion to Edgar, Vincent seems uneasy about Cassie and Sebastian's, Jose Pimentel, close proximity. When he comes very forcefully and pushes Sebastian away, he just makes things worse. When Cassie finds out that Vincent is not skipping work to distribute posters but is unwilling to accept his mother Ann Anderson's, Phoebe Nichols' $25,000 bounty, Cassie is even more enraged. Edgar's teacher, Mrs. Ryan, Pandora Collin, informs Michael that he was quite antisocial. Her assertion that this is typical of one-child homes notwithstanding, Michael's focus is on a recent drawing by Edgar. Edgar seems to be running from not just one but two rival parents, but also an older black guy she can't seem to place. Later, Michael finds out that Kennedy, Bobby Schofield, was killed in a hit and run. Nevertheless, when he tries to talk to Kripp about what happened at the Lux, he is told right away that he should be spending his time hunting for Edgar. As Vincent arrives on the Good Day Sunshine set, tensions are evident right away, and they only become stronger from there. Shortly after, he gets into a heated argument with Ronnie, Roberta Colindres, who makes fun of him for allowing Edgar to go to school by himself. Returning to the police, Tina, Erica Soto hands Michael a dossier with the names of all known criminals who have committed crimes within 5 blocks of Edgar's flat. He doesn't take long to realize that George Lovett, Clark Peters, is who he is, and he quickly leaves the office again. Shortly after, Michael arrives at George's flat with 2 cops in uniform and almost extends an invitation to enter. George complies with Michael's every request, even though he seems reserved, even unlocking the boiler room door. Michael stays with George until one of the cops points out to him from below what looks to be a cell that has a juice box that was just thrown away in the child's painting on the wall. As Cassie distributes missing posters, she gets stomped underfoot and ignored. Gator, Wade Alain Marcus, accepts one, but she doesn't acknowledge him as the Lux's owner. Although she follows someone she believes to be Edgar's coat, she is essentially told to screw off. She finds out a few minutes later that George has been taken into custody in relation to Edgar's case from a neighboring TV. Vincent approaches Lenny Wilson, Dan Fogler, to utilize Edgar's puppet, Eric, and Lenny recognizes his strange behavior right once. Vincent seems to think that Edgar would come back because he saw Eric on TV. To Vincent's astonishment, Lenny concurs and represents him to Jerry, Donald Sage Mackay, who has just unannouncedly arrived on site. Jerry then grudgingly schedules a meeting for this Friday. While Mitchell is gathering George's prior psychological records and setting up a blood test, he finds out that Miss Clark has arrived and is requesting to talk with George. Renata Clark, LaTonya Borsay, aware of George's past transgressions and close proximity, is quick to play the racial frame-up card. When questioned, George freely confesses to having type O blood, which is consistent with what was found on Edgar's shirt, and to letting Edgar draw in the boiler room. Michael is shocked to find out that Edgar has blood type A and that Vincent is sure about George's innocence in spite of the juice box and drawings when he tells the Andersons about his findings. Kripp has a different opinion, and by the time Michael tells him the news, he's virtually already sipping his celebration whiskey. Before going home, after being barraged by media, Vincent and Cassie quarrel about spending Anne's award money. Though it seems like neither of them wants to spend the money, Cassie is prepared to make a concession if it means finding the answers. She tells Vincent about her earlier meeting on the metro and discovers that he is carrying Edgar's sketches. Upon being questioned about them, he divulges his scheme to get the network to show Edgar's puppet in the hopes that it will motivate him to come back. When he learns that Cassie believes he's responsible for Edgar being missing, he takes off with the reward money. While on the train, Eric keeps pressing Vincent's buttons, upsetting a few other riders as it seems like Vincent is having arguments with himself. Michael pays George a visit in his cell later that evening, bringing along a photocopy of Edgar's drawing. He chuckles at the idea that the black man in the picture may be him, even though George tells him that he shouldn't be talking to him without his lawyer present. That's how the entire discussion unfolds, save from George's denial that he liked kids as much as Michael believes. While Vincent is visiting his mother, the little girl who Cassie thought was wearing Edgar's jacket delivers something to Yusef, Bama Kane. Anne starts insulting Vincent right once, and she only gets worse when he begs to stay the night. She asks if he needs a motel, but she also warns him that Tia hasn't cleaned the guest room and it's too late. She brings up his returning to his medicine after observing his peculiar behavior with Eric. The entire exchange proceeds in this manner until he hands up the check and walks out. As he leaves, he calls out to his father, Robert Anderson, John Doman, but all he does is gaze at him before closing the office door in his face. When Michael gets home later that evening and finds that William, Mark Gillis, has tried to take a shower by himself, he gets furious. On his way out, he finds out that William has already begun distributing his possessions in the case of his passing, which irritates him even more. After departing, Michael listens to the tape he made during his attempt to assassinate Kennedy while he stakes out the Lux. Before long, he's inside asking Gator questions regarding the recording. Gator assures him that his activity is now lawful despite his prior acts after listening to the recording. Gator brings Michael to Mandy and his child, who just so happens to be the voice on the audio that Michael has been confusing for Edgar, when it seems that Michael doesn't trust him. William returns down to the station, but his evening becomes much more depressing when he gets a phone from Cecile Rochelle, Adepero Odier, informing him that her son Marlon is gone.
Offered a $25,000 who out there knows something.
9-year-old Edgar Anderson.
Not only has Commissioner Nelson, boy is lost to our street.
I have to fit the teeth. Look.
Child doesn't just disappear. How's Vincent? My son is gone and nowhere about no one but himself.
We've been making some of the best passion about the work.
You know, Lenny doesn't like to walk around.
Lenny's cool.
Shit.
And you got your charity event coming up? Vincent may introduce my brother-in-law.
I'm so sorry about your son. Be kind, be brave, be...
Here come. They said Mr. Anderson. Up your story. Get your ducks in a...
Down on you.
Our world.
Excuse me, I'm here.
A picture to pick for him. But he wanted the day he passed. Good-looking kid. To get anything about him in the...
According to your statement, then just under... But by washing away from it all of it. She said that you fought about.
My client does not have to.
I'm just trying to get this straight.
The possessions of Edgar Anderson, Ivan Morris Howe, are seen strewn over the floor as episode 3 of Eric opens. According to a news story, the family has put up a $25,000 prize. Clark informs the media that George, Clark Peters, was freed from custody without facing any charges in relation to Edgar Anderson's disappearance. Commissioner Nelson's activities against minority groups are mocked by her. Vincent Anderson, Benedict Cumberbatch, is reminded by Eric that his pitch is in less than 24 hours. Vincent must be present for Jerry's celebration. Gabby Hoffman's character Cassie Anderson discusses Edgar's absence with a lady. She thinks the funds will be beneficial. Vincent seems to be keeping something from Cassie. Cassie becomes irate because she feels that the woman is talking about the same old garbage when she suggests phoning Dr. Mason. When Vincent arrives at the party, Lenny, Dan Fogler and Jerry, Donald Sage Mackay are already there. He discusses the script with Ronnie, Roberta Colindres. Ronnie is aware that the suspect was set go. Vincent is told by Ronnie that they are on his side and that drinking won't help him. Vincent is stopped before he can leave by Councillor Costello, Jeff Hefner, who tells him the Sunshine Charity is a fantastic cause. Vincent finds it amazing that Costello's proposal to transport the homeless out of the city is linked to a gift made to an organization that aids the underprivileged. Bruno Di Bari, Gerard Monaco, Costello's brother-in-law, stops over to discuss the state of New York's health and cleanliness. Vincent thinks Hudson Sanitation is owned by Bruno. Vincent is sidetracked when he notices Ledroit, McKinley Belcher 3 close by, even though Bruno is trying to speak with him. Ledroit desires that he come to be questioned at the station. Cassie thinks Edgar is home when she sees cops at her house. George informs her that Mr. Anderson has been taken into custody. She keeps screaming for him to go. Eric is talking to Vincent while he wanders around his cell. Speaking with Mr. Rochelle at the police station, Cassie learns that her son Marlon has passed away. Edgar comes up in conversation. Cecile claims she had to struggle to get any information about her son published in the media. Michael Ledroit plays a security footage of Edgar leaving his flat to Vincent in an interrogation room. Despite his earlier statements to the contrary, Vincent is seen leaving a few seconds later. He's talking to Eric when he blurts out something. Ledroit says Cassie told him that Vincent had followed Edgar that day over the phone. She added that the evening before Edgar vanished, they got into a disagreement. Is Edgar aware of them? Ledroit queries. Vincent claims that he did, and that out of worry, he followed Edgar. He clarifies that he phoned Edgar but couldn't hear him. Ledroit notes that a few seconds later, Vincent disappears from view. During the interview, Vincent can't stop talking to himself. Erica Soto's Tina shows up with a suitcase. After peering through the door, Cassie is instructed to wait below. Ledroit queries Vincent about the gash on his head as he loses consciousness. Ledroit discloses that the blood on the t-shirt matches his blood type. To stop talking, Vincent screams. He expresses to Ledroit his desire to ensure Edgar's well-being. He reached out for Edgar and followed him down an alley. Edgar managed to break away even though he had him by the nape of the neck. Once more, Vincent seized him and pulled him by his t-shirt. He must have done that for that reason. As Vincent puts it, there was a lot of blood. Edgar, according to him, removed the t-shirt and tossed it at him. Vincent claims that because there was so much blood, he placed it on his forehead. He then hurled the t-shirt behind the trash can. Ledroit confides in the commissioner that he would like to detain Vincent for the night so he may work through his issues. The press will go bananas over this, he's been warned. Cassie is instructed to return tomorrow by Ledroit. He says that a few hours after Vincent left, a man entered the flat and stayed there for a while. Ledroit worries if she can trust the man. Cassie claims that he is a pal. Lenny inquires about Cassie. A transient pulls out a t-shirt next to an Edgar poster. An article in the news discusses the homeless crisis. After seeing the report, Costello and Bruno decide to move the homeless people to more acceptable housing. Bruno says he's excited to collaborate with him, but Costello is adamant that this will be their final meeting. Bruno queries who is in debt to whom. According to the article, the Hudson Sanitation Company, which was given a contract earlier this year to clean up New York's tunnels, is supporting the plan. Before feeding his dog, Ricardo, Orlando Norman consumes food from a can. Ledroit discovers Cecile dozing out in the police station's foyer. Cassie throws an arm's worth of alcohol bottles in the garbage in another scene. She queries Lenny about his belief that Vincent killed Edgar. Lenny stays silent. Since he had run away, she implies, he would have returned home, and since he is dead, nobody can harm him. Lenny informs her that Vincent was receiving medication when he was 9 years old when she claims Anne. Phoebe Nichols places the blame on her. He labels Vincent and Anne as insane. In the event that Edgar is not found, Cassie promises to leave Vincent and acknowledges having an affair. Lenny gives her the assurance that Edgar will be located safely. Ledroit makes an effort to persuade Cecile that Marlon Rochelle is still remembered. She claims that because Edgar is white, the media is only focusing on Edgar and not him. She says she wants to hug Marlon and that she would not stop talking to him until he does more. Ledroit offers to remain at home with William, Mark Gillis, after helping him to a set in the living room. William exhorts him to persevere through all obstacles. A man calls Cassie in another scene and is bothersome. She throws the smokes in the garbage, yet she still thinks about smoking. Tina and Ledroit observe CCTV in the alleyway by the dry cleaner at the police station. Edgar may be seen heading left toward his school at 8:14 a.m. while still wearing his jacket. Vincent is spotted in the alley at 8:18 a.m., but he goes in a different direction than Edgar. Vincent leaves the Herald Street subway at 8:34 a.m. and makes his way to the studio, where he spends the whole day save for a 20-minute lunch break. reporters start attacking Vincent. He says he envisions a future in which children may stroll to and from school without fear. 5 days later, a journalist, Andrew Hassiriot, reports him dead. Vincent swears at him, telling him Edgar is still alive. Cassie apologizes to George at another place. To view Edgar's sketches, he takes her downstairs with him. She looks at them and grins. Ledroit arranges Marlon's picture next to Edgar's on the inquiry board. He suggests there could be a connection between Edgar and Marlon's disappearances to Commissioner Cripp, David Denman. Cripp informs him of Marlon's drug accusations and implies that he is either high in the Hudson River or some other place. Cecile, in Ledroit's opinion, merits closure. Cripp cautions against meddling in Vice's inquiry. Ledroit receives nothing except a severe warning when he questions Noakes, Ryan Hunter, about 8. Cassie is surprised when Vincent gets home. Eric instructs him to tidy up as he needs to present Edgar's puppet. Cassie walks over to where Sebastian, Jose Pimentel, is distributing meals to the homeless. Putting his arm around her, he tells her that Edgar is not dead. Edgar is seen laying still in a tunnel under the surface. Vincent reconnects Jerry, Avi Nagler, and Sam with Edgar's Eric. To help Eric feel at home, Jackson, Simon Magnonda, Ronnie, Roberta Colindrez, Ellis, Chloe Claudel, and Murray, Adam Silver pitch in. Edgar is being held captive by Yusuf, Bama Kane, in the tunnels used by the homeless. Vincent visits the Lux with his co-workers. George Lester plays a drag queen who welcomes them. Vincent walks into the tavern and unintentionally runs into Wade Alain Marcus Gator. Cripp must locate Tina, a competent police officer, per Lorenzo, Lawrence Moran. Ledroit is urged by Cripp to locate him a wife and avoid the Lux. Ledroit and Tina are having sex in a vehicle a short while later. He turns down her invitation to come in. He inquires about Dana, Noakes' wife. She asserts that Noakes is not Dana's ideal spouse. Jerry informs Lenny that Vincent has left and Eric has entered. He is staring at Lenny. Jerry claims that when Edgar is absent, Vincent is drinking. In the background, Vincent is seen having a fantastic time. Before leaving, he gives Lenny the order to terminate Vincent. Alexis Molnar's character Rhea and Yusuf quarrel on what to do with Edgar. She claims that TJ, or Stefan Race, can fetch a high price for him. Edgar, frightened, is told not to move by him. For Edgar, Cassie and Sebastian distribute flyers. She picks up Marlon's missing person flyer and gets the phone number. Ledroit displays a picture of Marlon to TJ. TJ disputes having seen him. Gator grabs Ledroit's arm and insists that he look again. Ledroit claims that being incarcerated softened him and reassures him that life continued outside of jail. If TJ betrays him, Gator says he will murder him. Vincent is puffing on narcotics. When Lenny comes to see how Eric is doing, he snorts a line. Vincent tells him it's all right. Lenny begs him to return to Cassie at home. Eric and Vincent take to the dance floor. Ledroit notices him. Lenny is at the bar, watching him. A stack of paperwork is unintentionally knocked onto the floor by a police station janitor. Lenny's file is among them. The show comes to an end.
Meet me in the morning. Meet me in say it down.
The amount of time in construction. Yeah, sure. Yeah, but you know, he's a hit.
Yeah, they love him. A really great severance package and rehab, man.
Fuck you loyalty. Fuck until you met me. That's you too, because we knew. You
Spoken to Cat?
Hi. You in here, Mrs. Anderson?
Call her. A fight. I don't think I was a very
Warm when you don't know when you're home.
I don't know.
If you, I'm holding on to mine.
Lenny informs Vincent in Eric episode 4 that Jerry dismissed him, even though they still want Eric. Following a disagreement, Vincent storms out.
Into enhancing police community relations.
Fund your proposed cleanup of the city. There is corruption in City Hall. You know, you just don't brag about it anymore.
Right.
Looking for. It ain't going nowhere till she.
Come on, no fucking way. Tracks go.
I want my
Cassie, in need of someone to talk to, visits Cecile. The ladies express their rage to her instead of seeking solace from her. Cecile asserts that what counts is how she chooses to express her rage. As Michael watches other footage, he witnesses Misha, a sanitation worker, removing Edgar's bloodied t-shirt from under the trash and putting it in his pocket. He dropped off something in a plastic bag just before. Afterwards, Misha is asked by Michael what he was doing on the recording. Misha gives a vague response that suggests he is afraid of his boss.
How do they get a free pass, Jerry? These gentlemen. Personal. Gerald. It's mine. Eric is right on cue. Who's the puppet now?
How difficult a time this is. I'm long tired of your acerbic. Do you ever ask yourself the reason for
Michael's boss said that Misha left clean clothing for other workers to pick up when he asked what Misha had left near the garbage. Someone who is hunting for Raya, who owes him money, barges in on Eric and Yusuf. Yusuf asks Edgar whether he followed him through the grill as he departs. After he did, Yusuf claims he's entered hell. Since it's risky for the child to leave his room, he urges the child stay put. Later, when Vincent and Jerry meet at a restaurant, Vincent angrily chastises Jerry for his choice to terminate him. At the same restaurant, his father pulls him aside and starts talking to him about checking himself into treatment, but Vincent isn't interested in hearing anything he has to say. Then he confronts Cassie about reporting him to the police, but she doesn't seem to mind. She wants him to move out since she has recognized how angry she is with him. After learning that Sebastian had seen Edgar a few times, he assumes that Sebastian is the one who abducted Edgar. Then Cassie informs him that she is expecting Sebastian's child. After that, Vincent walks away and keeps getting drunker. Raya is stopped by TJ on the street and asked for money. She appears to be in debt to many parties. She claims to have something that will appeal to him and that she is aware of his fondness for them young.
Deal with the devil.
Self.
I'll see what I can do. TV this morning, and somehow the that garbage guy, Droit, he's still trolling through that list and resources, putting Marlon and Rochelle back. But I defer to you, because I'm up.
Not too late.
Do what you like, LeDroit, Latosh. She's at a call from.
Ride the subway with her.
Thank you, Tina.
Files on your desk, Mikey.
Michael is informed by Tina that she has set up a meeting between him and Dana. She also seems to be saying that even though she knows he's gay, she won't reveal it. She then hands him the Sierra files, where Lenny was charged with encouraging the prostitution of a juvenile, but the case was dropped. Costello states that in order to improve their reputation, City Hall will be making a donation to the Good Day Sunshine organization during a meeting with Dibari and Robert Anderson. Alexander in sanitation then calls Dibari to report that narcotics shipments have arrived, but police are questioning them. Dibari orders him to stop using it. Afterwards, Misha is invited to join Alexander and other sanitation workers for a beer. To get him to shut talking, they gave him a hard beating outside the bar. In their conversation, George tells Vincent that he used to see him race with Edgar frequently and that he never let his son win. Vincent discovers that Edgar has drawn a map of their region in the boiler room, and he begins to recreate it in his notebook after seeing this. When Lenny questions Michael about the Sierra nightclub, Michael becomes upset.
You like it there?
Is Ricardo in?
I don't know.
Gotta feed my dog.
The call from Kimberly Cow's wife late the night. Last 10 years. Asked him about the car. Son, that's all I can say. I have to put him away.
Lenny replies that Ricardo spends most mornings down by the basketball courts to him when he asks whether he recognizes Marlon, pleading for just one name to connect. When he next sees Dana Noakes, Noakes seems relieved that Kennedy has passed away. Kennedy's new automobile had scuffed paint and a damage in the bumper after his death. After leaving Dana, Michael finds Vincent following his map. He tells the detective what he discovers, and the detective believes Michael is insane. Vincent eventually finds the subway after his hunt. He witnesses someone vanish, but he has no idea where they went after that. Michael discovers his cassettes are missing at work. Tina fortunately saved them. Tina answered for Cripps when he asked for them, stating that they had already been sent to the archives. They must now be kept at home by Michael. Now, Michael finds a message addressed to him that uses the F word. After then, he receives a call that directs him to the hospital. William is not there when he asks for him. He is deceased. Yusuf asks Edgar why he came down here when they are back in the underground. Edgar claims that he followed Yusuf down here because he admired his graffiti tags. Rhea makes another pledge to get TJ the child in the meanwhile, then descends behind a grate in front of the Lux. In an untidy home, Vincent Anderson, Benedict Cumberbatch flips and throws the sofa at the beginning of the episode. Examining the phone number on Marlon Rochelle's missing person poster, Cassie Anderson, Gabby Hoffman. On a bed, Edgar Anderson, Ivan Morris Howe is dozing off. A pistol is pointed at his back by either Rhea, Alexis Molnar or Yusuf, Bama Kane. Vincent is told by Lenny Wilson, Dan Fogler that Jerry, Donald Sage Mackay has chosen to part ways with him and retain Eric. It's Vincent's show, he says. Lenny informs him that he is not involved in the situation. Vincent is insulted by Eric. Lenny pledges to see to it that he receives a substantial severance pay package along with health insurance so he may enter treatment. Vincent lashes out at Lenny, calling him a cowardly imposter. Lenny says Cassie's tired of him too. As he leaves, Vincent swears at Eric and Lenny. Adepero Odier's Cecile Rochelle receives a phone number for legal services from Cassie. She wonders whether Edgar ran away to avoid her and Vincent. She doesn't think she was a good mother all the time. Cecile declines to provide consolation. The moms are at odds with each other. Detective Michael Ledroit, McKinley Belcher 3 witnesses Misha putting Edgar's Good Day Sunshine shirt in his pocket while at the police station. Later, Misha comes back and places a white bag beneath the dumpster. Speaking about his intentions for New York City, Costello, Jeff Hepner appears on a chat program. Mike, the host, makes accusations of corruption in public housing, the police force, and City Hall. That used to be the case, but not anymore, according to Costello. Law X's tracks informs Yusuf that Rhea is in debt to him. Until Yusuf threatens him with a pistol, he won't go. Edgar declares he desires Cassie out of fear. Yusuf tells him it's all right. He examines Edgar's illustrations. In another scene, Ledroit is informed by Misha Varga, Ioakim Siabanu that he wants to honor Edgar's bleeding clothing. Ledroit queries his intended recipient. Misha says she didn't see Edgar in the alleyway. Levant Torkolis Alexander Lakatos breaks up the talk. Ledroit queries Misha about the bag she stashed behind the garbage. Alexander won't allow him to search the area without a warrant, claiming it was only clean clothing for the night shift workers. Before he leaves, Ledroit gives him an order to get the damaged taillight mended. When Yusuf offers Edgar some food, he declines. He's warned by Yusuf about the perils that lie within the tunnels. Before departing, he inquires about his sketch of Eric. Edgar shuts the door behind him. Jerry is eating supper when Vincent shows up out of the blue. Vincent orders and pours himself a glass of wine. Jerry presents him to Artie and Benji K. Vincent becomes aggressive. John Doman's character Robert Anderson steps in and makes him leave the restaurant. Robert informs Vincent a short while later that Ann Anderson desires for him to check into rehab. Vincent disputes that he has an alcoholism issue. Robert promises to help if he checks himself into treatment. Vincent describes Robert as frightening. When he gets home, Cassie is watching Good Day Sunshine. She acknowledges that she threw his booze in the garbage. As he hurriedly looks for vodka, he adds that although she thinks he killed Edgar, he didn't. She requests that he vacate. He implies that she's involved in an affair. She claims that yesterday night they distributed posters and that Sebastian, Jose Pimentel, is a decent man. Does Edgar know Sebastian? He asks. She says they had many meetings. He wonders if Edgar was kidnapped by Sebastian. He finds an alcohol bottle, downs some tablets, and declares that Eric will assist in locating Edgar. She queries whether he has been conversing with Edgar's dummy. Does she have a better suggestion? He asks. She reveals that she is expecting a child, and Sebastian is the father. Before departing, he calls her a wonderful mother and swears at her. Edgar makes drawings on Yusuf's wall. Rhea is threatened by TJ, Stefan Race if she doesn't give him the money before the end of the week. They hear he loves them young, she says. Yusuf notices them conversing. Vincent is consuming booze next to a trash can. Alexander is given a lot of medicine somewhere else. Ledroit is informed by Tina, Erica Soto, that Dana Noakes, Amy Louise Pemberton, has agreed to speak with him tonight. He takes hold of her hand. Her relative, she says, is a queer. Ledroit notices a drop prostitution of a minor charge in Lenny's file. The 1979 Sierra raid resulted in Lenny's arrest. Robert is informed by Costello of his intentions to counteract unfavorable press by making a donation to the Good Day Sunshine organization and organizing a cleaning effort. Robert and Bruno Di Bari, Gerard Monaco, assert that Commissioner Nelson wants the city's homeless population bussed away tonight. Clark Peters' character George Lovett says he was wrongfully convicted of a crime and served 16 years in prison. He likens Vincent to his winning obsessed father. Vincent recognizes Edgar's sketch as a map. Lenny is asked about the 1979 Sierra raid by Ledroit. Lenny says none of his co-workers are aware of it. Ledroit queries him about his time spent alone with Edgar. "I love Edgar," Lenny declares. Lenny claims not to know Marlon, even after Ledroit gives him a picture of the man. Ledroit persuades him to name him. Reluctantly, Lenny says, "Ricardo." TJ is asked whether he has seen Ricardo by Alexander Gator, Wade Alain Marcus at the Lux. Alexander demands that Misha join him for a drink in another instance. In the Metro, Dana says that after Kennedy's death, Noakes felt relieved. She claims that the bumper of the new automobile is dented. Is that enough to bring him down? She queries. Ledroit discovers Vincent outside the police station a little while later. Vincent claims that Edgar drew a map. He turns down Ledroit's invitation to come in for coffee. In an alley, Misha gets assaulted. Tina acknowledges stealing Ledroit's recordings back at the police station in order to prevent Crip from obtaining them. She gives them back and advises him to keep them at his place. A picture of him and William Elliott, Mark Gillis defaced with a homophobic slur, appears inside an envelope that he opens. He finds that William has passed away when he gets to the hospital a short while later. A battered Misha awakens on a boat that is drifting. If Alexander speaks to the police once again, he threatens to murder his dog. Vincent enters the underground and follows Edgar's sketch. Rhea wants Yusuf to sell Edgar and give her a portion of the proceeds in another place. If he tries to ransom Edgar, she threatens to have him arrested by the police. Edgar claims he is not hit by Vincent. He is reassured by Yusuf that words are equally harmful. Edgar claims his mother is kind. Given the risk, Yusuf finds it incomprehensible that Edgar followed him into the tunnels. As the episode comes to a close, Rhea informs TJ that she is expecting a child for him.
YPD face up to their responsibility. A 14-year-old boy who played on these courts. No, we are. Edgar Anderson has been missing. Deputy Mayor Castillo must.
None of this makes sense. Well, makes that the kid ran away. He's not sliding out from behind the door. He's gonna. Go to the boy. He'll tell him. You're different. I gotta go.
I can watch him.
I'm not leaving.
We should talk. Pretty clear. But if you need help, but I don't need to remind you that you have keys to his door. I'm not sure.
She took the photo off the fridge without malice because I know you. Everything we found together, I didn't ruin.
Let me walk you out.
Hello, this is the...
Renata Clark informs the media in Eric episode 5 that the NYPD ignores those who are disenfranchised. She speaks up in favor of Marlon Rochelle, who is still unaccounted for and not being looked for. While Eric keeps bugging him, Vincent sleeps outside and keeps looking for Edgar. Rhea attempts to talk Yusuf into letting her take the boy again, but he won't budge. He discovers that Edgar scrawled phrases from Decent Morning Sunshine, words like be brave, kind, good, and different, on his wall. Michael is reminded by William's sister Caroline that he is not entitled to William's residence by law. He maintains William contracted AIDS from someone else, despite her accusations that he killed him and gave it to him. He claims she's attempting to sabotage their 7-year romance because he loves him. To let Cassie know he has her boy, Yusuf calls. When he tells Rhea where to find Edgar and where to bring the money, she is there.
And don't go for... Is...
He gave back. What do you need it for?
Okay, yes, call him. Call him.
Why don't you lie down, Or to get Robert out of the office and over.
What did I motherfucking tell you?
I was talking to a friend of yours a couple of days. Number 12, right?
All day, he said he was meeting.
Yeah, you do.
You want me to get killed too? Can you tell him I want?
No police, he warns her, or the deal is off. After learning that Vincent was dismissed, Cassie goes looking for him to break the news to him and begins shouting at Lenny. She subsequently visits her mother-in-law in an attempt to give her the prize money, but she is unable to do so without Robert's help. Meanwhile, Vincent is too tempted when he sees the flyers for the charity meet and greet for Good Day Sunshine. Costello, Hudson Sanitation, and Robert Anderson plan the event, which he attends, with the intention of giving the impression that they are attempting to clean up the streets. Costello discusses his initiative to make New York City better there. He closes shelters, and Sebastian criticizes him, but Costello ignores him. When the Eric costume is brought out to perform among the other puppets, Vincent finds it intolerable. Then, the Eric slanders that this puppet was part of his master plan to reclaim Edgar in his mind. Michael discovers that Ricardo, the man Lenny has been paying for sex, is sporting Marlon's jersey when he visits him at the basketball courts. The last time they saw one another, he adds, they traded jerseys just before Marlon had an afternoon appointment. If he ever saw Marlon at the Lux, he won't tell him. However, Ricardo responds that his jersey was number 8 when he asked what number it was. Michael asks Gator whether he has ever seen TJ with Marlon once more. He instructs him to examine the CCTV footage from the Lux from June 12, the evening Marlon vanished. Michael does manage to obtain a second recording, but it is from the day Edgar vanished. It depicts him trailing Yusuf. Michael requests that their new suspect be sketched, but he is hesitant to show it to the media just yet. He then discusses what Dana told him and what he discovered about Marlon being 8 with Crip. Crip urges him to back off when he tries to bring Noakes in, then instructs Noakes to get his wife back on track. Someone in the office uses an F-slur, interrupting Michael's thoughts about William. As he approaches the offender to discuss it, Robert Anderson's call comes through. When Michael arrives to the Andersons, Robert informs Cassie that unless she calls the police, he won't pay her the reward money. When she is left with no other option, she tells Michael exactly what Yusuf said. However, Rhea informs TJ, who is unaware of this, that she has the deal and can deliver the youngster to him by the end of the day. After leaving the underground once more, Vincent adds additional markings to Edgar's map. Then, he speculates that Edgar was following Yusuf since he notices one of his tags, all of which Edgar had noted down. He then boards the metro and proceeds to follow the tags. He pursues someone into the tunnels beneath other people's homes. Eric informs him that Edgar is not present, that he will never locate him, and that he cannot atone for his errors. Disappointed, Vincent pulls over to take a hit after noticing all the narcotics down there. Michael is informed by Sebastian about Yusuf's residence in underground tunnels, although Sebastian does not believe Yusuf to be a malevolent man. Michael was hoping to bring Edgar back into the agreement, but Crip went against his desires and got the press to leak information on Yusuf, meaning that Yusuf is now probably going to flee. Michael gets yelled at by Crip for forgetting his rank. Gator finds tapes from all the dates that are around June 12th of last year, but not that one. He asks TJ where the tape is for that date. On a different recording, though, Marlon is seen entering the club. He beats TJ until he tells him where the June 12th recording is when he is unable to respond. Cassie, despondent that Yusuf would now appear with Edgar, proceeds to the phone booth to complete the exchange. Edgar tells Yusuf that he is afraid of his dad, which is why he doesn't want to go home. When Yusuf finds out about the circulating sketch of him, Rhea attempts to talk him out of risking himself by letting her abduct the youngster. Reluctantly, he consents, asking her to keep him safe and return the money. Vincent begins berating himself for not protecting his son while intoxicated and high. But then he sees Edgar giving Yusuf a final hug. He makes an attempt to pursue him, but at the same moment the cops begin raiding the tunnels. Vincent's spectacles break during the raid and he is unable to catch up to Edgar and Rhea because of the turmoil. Edgar stumbles when emerging from the tunnels, falling along with Rhea and making TJ give up on them. Michael realizes they have destroyed their chances of locating Edgar when he notices the tunnels have been emptied out. He visits Gator at the conclusion of the show, and they have a kiss. Just before he passes out, Vincent discovers Edgar's sketches while still blundering around the tunnels.
City tunnels during the evacuation. Edgar Anderson as
Gator, be careful. He was good at getting me out of my head. He was playing this piece of music.
Yeah. Really happened before that.
People are now compelled to live outside after City Hall evacuated the subways and tunnels, as seen in Eric Episode 6. A history is mentioned by Gator and Michael the morning following their hookup. After that, Gator gives him a tape that he received from TJ and instructs him to fast forward to the scene where Marlon appears. The scene depicts Marlon being forced to give Richard Costello a blowout before Noakes arrives, takes Marlon away, and beats the teenager till he passes dead. Later, Kennedy gives him a rebuke. Afterwards, sanitation workers Misha and Alexander arrive to collect Marlon's body and load it onto the garbage truck. Crip tells Michael to turn off the footage of Marlon's murder when he shows it to the other members of his department. Michael, however, dismisses him and gives the order for others to bring in the guilty. Michael informs Crip that this is his probe and that he would want Internal Affairs to remain unaware of his interference. After Eric awakens Vincent, he discovers Yusuf gathering his belongings beside Edgar's paintings. Yusuf maintains that he supported his son, claiming Vincent Edgar was afraid of his father and didn't want to return home. Then he leads Vincent to where Edgar would have gone, the sewer. Eric, however, tries to stop Vincent by snatching hold of him and accusing him of being the true monster under the bed. After some time of rough housing, Vincent overcomes Eric and yells for him to die. Officers take Noakes, Alexander, and Misha into custody. Michael discovers newspaper clippings on the missing children as well as Marlon's borrowed jersey when he visits Misha.
Say nothing, Richie. Say nothing without
By the look of her, she was living on the street. But we've... That why you killed him too? Mr. Locatos. And you better start talking, Misha. Rochelle.
Punching, kicking him. He was trying to fit in.
Dai Bari and Richard Costello are then taken into custody. With the exception of Misha, who claims he removed Marlon's body under Bruno Dai Bari's orders, none of the people they have detained will speak. Richard also says something, saying that they had him in handcuffs so he couldn't stop them. Rhea drowned and her body was discovered by the police. Edgar's whereabouts remain unknown. Edgar, meantime, finds it difficult to navigate the sewers by himself. After a while, Vincent gets over his argument and keeps looking for Edgar. He climbs over a grate and dashes to go someplace after watching on TV that protests are happening outside City Hall. Vincent shows up at the Good Day Sunshine studio as Cassie heads to the demonstrations. To aid in his search for Edgar, he dons the Eric costume that he has obtained. To speak with Edgar on TV, he heads to City Hall. He apologizes and states that everyone deserves a safe place to live, hoping that his son will receive his message. This sentiment is consistent with the demonstrations in support of New Yorkers who are without a place to live. Vincent continues, saying he wants to improve even if he let Edgar down. Edgar is listening to the broadcast from a diner as Vincent removes his disguise and cites Tolstoy, saying, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing themselves." This time, he applies the quote to himself rather than using it as a weapon. Then he takes out a microphone and promises to race Edgar home. Edgar and Vincent begin their sprint for home at the same moment, and Edgar prevails this time. Cassie is also not far behind. Edgar was put to bed later by Vincent and Cassie. Vincent chooses to enter treatment and promises to contact his family back once he is cleared. He understands that he has turned into a poisonous member of their family and that it is time to make amends. Lenny watches the news reports about Marlon and learns that one of the Sierra's previous clients was the producer of a well-known children's television program, which is him. Instead of facing his responsibility, he ends his life by jumping out of his window. Following the news of her son's passing, Cecile addresses the media about Marlon's amazing traits. But these are not fair rules, and this is not a fair world. Even though Marlon was deceived by the world, she declares that she would never give up on the love and hope that her son held dear. Later, when Michael packs William's belongings, he sobs. After that, he brings groceries to Cecile's house and sits down to dinner with her. Robert runs into Vincent in the park a few months later. He's recovered and out of rehab. Vincent shares with him his memories of their enjoyable days spent together in the zoo. Vincent had forgotten that Robert used to make time for him. He claims he once respected and looked up to them. But that's not the case anymore. Robert attacks Vincent because he is unable to face his shortcomings as a father. He informs him that the park he adores was created by directing immigrants to vacate Seneca Village. He refers to that as advancement. Vincent, though, calls it stealing and disagrees. Vincent then reports to work, where he performs on Good Day Sunshine as Eric. Edgar, Cassie, who is expecting, and Sebastian arrive to see the demonstration of how Eric is supported by people and isn't alone. For the first time since his father's release from treatment, Edgar is thrilled to spend the day with Vincent. After slipping off to put on the Eric suit, he shakes Vincent's hand and talks in a gravelly voice, as though they are meeting for the first time.